I hope you're not one of those people who says, I found Jesus in 1945 and I'm happy with that. From the least of them, Jeremiah said it, from the least of them to the greatest of them, they shall know God. And then later in Ephesians chapter 3, he's going to talk about knowing the love of God. And he's going to tell them that it has breadth, it has length, it has depth. You're never going to get to the end of it. We're back to Artemis again, isn't it? They're flying out into space. Where is the end of space? Do you know where the end of space is? I don't know. Do you hit a wall? I've always wondered about that ever since I was a child. What? Oh, we got an astrophysicist over here. Yeah, they do though, don't they? They say it kind of just goes round, yeah? But it's so big. I mean, it's just huge. To quote the American president. It's huge. But the love of God, he said, is bigger than that. You'll never see the end of it. And so the life of a Christian is a life of pursuit. It's hunger, it's thirst, it's desire to know more of God. And so he says, I pray that he will give you a spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of him. Are we hungry for God? Are we hungry to know more of him? This is the desire of Paul. Paul has the heart of a pastor. He's an apostle, but he has that pastoral gifting in him. This passion for the people of God, this desire this is always the challenge of a pastor. We don't just rejoice when the church grows. It's wonderful when the church grows, but you see, church growth is a two-edged sword. You can have a church of 5,000 and you rejoice, but then you remember that 4,552 of them are devils. It's wonderful to have children and multiply and give birth, but what if they're all problem children? And so you live with this tension that people come into the church and they sing beautifully and they pray beautifully and they dress beautifully. But, you get to know people, and as a pastor, you know things about people. And then you find yourself in that place of intercession all the time, because you're like, it's great, but if they would just know God more, if they would just be more hungry, if they would just desire after God. It's wonderful that God can bless and provide. It's wonderful that you can pray for people for their business. Thank God for that. Thank God for the many blessings, the many material blessings. But as a pastor, you're constantly in this place of saying, oh, are they saved? Oh, thank God. But are they going to go further? Or are they just going to stay where they are? And you think, if only they would go further, we could change this world. We could change Colchester. And so I want to tell you, you don't realize the burden of being in pastoral ministry, of being in leadership. You go away and you think, oh my God. And that's where Paul was. He talked to the Corinthians, and he said, once again, I am in the pains of labor over you. That's the life of a pastor. And I want to tell you, that's my desire. When I'm praying for you in the morning, I get up and I get out my prayers, and I have the different people I'm praying for, and I pray across the congregation. And one of my prayers is, oh God, just make them hungry. God, just make them hungry after you, to know more of you. Lord, let them catch the vision. That it's not just about me and my little circle here, but it's about the plan of God. And so Paul is in that place. He's so passionate for them. He's rejoicing that they are born again. He's rejoicing that the Gentiles have come to faith. But now he's also saying, will they go further? Will they go deeper? I don't know if you've ever been in a room full of people who've gone deeper. It's an amazing thing when you go to a place where pastors meet. You know, we go for training. I've been doing some training the last couple of years, and we go, and every single person is a minister in training. And then you get into worship, and that's like, wow. Because everybody in the room is hungry. You know, you go to a place where revival is. If you've ever been in a place where revival has broken out, everyone in the room is hungry. And then you just look around you and you see the outpouring. You see that everybody, you know, they're like Peter, you know, and those people up the Mount of Transfiguration in Matthew 17. It says they saw nobody except for Jesus. I wonder if we can get to that place where we're not only saved, but we're hungry. We're not only born again, but we're loving others. There's something about that faith which is active in us, and there's a desire to know more of Him. That's my prayer for you today, church. That's my challenge for you today. Paul, he wants them to fully realize all the implications of their faith. And I want that for you today, church, that you would know all the implications of your faith. You can be the one that changes your family. You can be the one who goes into that office. I know you go into that workplace and you don't like what you find there. But you can be the one to bring the atmosphere. You can be the one to bring it. And somebody will be saying, I don't know what it is, but when they're here, things are different. We prayed that over Emmanuel today, that he would be a carrier of the presence of God. Do you want that for your life? Do you simply want to succeed? Or do you want to be a place where heaven and earth meet, and when you come into the room, things change? And so Paul says, I give thanks and I pray. I always remember you, he says in the ESV translation. I always remember you in my prayers. It means it's constant. Have you ever had a constant itch in prayer? Have you ever had a constant itch in prayer? You know, it sometimes happens to me when I get a phone call or I get a letter in the paper and I suddenly realize we're in the midst of a crisis. Have you ever been in a crisis? And then now I remember the time I forgot to renew my visa in Kenya and I was overdue. Now I'm in the midst of a crisis. Suddenly now all those plans that seem so important, no, there's an itch. I remember when my wife and I were planning to come here, or rather when I was planning to come here and my wife was not planning to come here. I remember that. I remember that God had shown me, but he hadn't shown my wife. And I had that thing in me. We are on to the next thing. You know that when God shows you you're on to the next thing, I'm done here. I'm done here. I'm just in maintenance mode. I'm done here. But God, you've spoken to me, but you haven't spoken to my wife. And so every minute I'm in prayer. I had a balcony outside my office in Mombasa, and every morning I'm out there saying, God, speak to my wife. Thank God that my wife is a praying woman and a godly woman, by the way. It was inevitable that she would hear. However much she didn't want to hear, it was inevitable that she would hear the voice of God. But it's like you can't let it go. And that usually happens in a crisis. But what if it wasn't in a crisis? What if we got such a taste of heaven? What if we really saw the plan of God? So that itch was the itch every day to say, God, I want more of you. I tell you, it takes maintenance to be in that place. It's not just a heavenly download. I remember when I don't know if you remember when you first got born again. Oh, I was hungry. I was hungry to know God. I was hungry to know about every day. I was in prayer. Because I only know one way to see things. I only know tunnel vision. I'm all in or I'm all out, and it's that one thing, and it's all I can think about. I later learned that that's an issue of neurodiversity. And so I might plan to do 5 things today, but if the wrong thing gets my attention, I'm in serious trouble. But I'd found Jesus, and I would pray. I remember I'm a newly born Christian, and I'm praying in tongues for 5 hours a day because I'm just so hungry for God. But I didn't automatically stay hungry. I have to maintain my hunger. I think that's what fasting's about a lot of the time. You've got to maintain your hunger. You've got to feel that physical hunger to get a hold of that spiritual hunger and get to that place where you're hungry for God. It requires maintenance. What if that prayer itch wasn't about overdue rent? What if that prayer itch wasn't about immigration? What if that prayer itch was about, I want to see heaven. I want to see Jesus, and I want to see people come to him. I'm longing for a day when people will see in church en masse, as a majority, will begin to see things in that perspective. Not that the other things don't matter at all, but this matters the most. That people see Jesus. It's so vital. It's so important.